Welcome everyone to Nanos Indie Cafe, the show where we discuss and promote various indie games and indie projects. If you have your own indie game or indie project, feel free to pop by sometime, discuss it, talk about it. And when we do this like Wednesday through Friday, typically at 2 p.m. Arizona time at twitch.tv/now here. And today we are doing the podcast portion of the show. And today I have a very special guest. I guess I've been wanting to talk for a long time. The developer of Nom Nom Apocalypse. Welcome, man. If you want to introduce yourself.
Yeah, thanks for having me. My name's Josh Sacco, and I'm the solo dev from Deadleaf Games.
Cool. Yeah, it's crazy like having you here because like I've been following your games since I started doing the show, so it's kind of like coming kind of full circle kind of thing. So how long have you been like working on your game?
Awesome. About 2.5 years now.
Yeah, that's close about the time I think I started. So it's kind of cool.
Yeah.
So how would do you want to like give people a brief like rundown of what your game is or what it's about?
Yeah, so it's a lighthearted twin stick shooter with light roguelite elements, and the food apocalypse has happened to the city, and it's up to you as a food fighter to sort of clear the city and get rid of all the like food mutants in each area.
Cool. So can you kind of explain to people what a twin stick shooter like? I kind of get. I've only played obviously years and a couple hours, so I'm not like super familiar with twin stick shooter.
Yeah, so twin stick shooters vary from game to game, but usually it's the use of the control with both sort of sticks. So one is to aim and one is to move. So that's usually what's the defining element of a twin stick shooter. But the actual games themselves vary, in my opinion. So that'd be my definition. Yeah.
So what was the first like twin stick shooter you played?
Oh, probably a long time ago as a kid. I couldn't remember the first one I played, but I've played various over the years.
Okay, what are some of your favorites then?
Definitely Binding of Isaac. That's a pretty good one.
Would that be a twin stick shooter?
It does come under it, but it's sort of hard because it does have the twin stick shooter controls, but I wouldn't say it is a twin stick shooter type thing.
I'd consider it more of like a roguelike than a twin stick shooter.
Yeah, I guess so, yeah. Yeah, I did like Nuclear Throne as well for that. I mean, it sort of varies because you could say like they have the elements, but they're not exactly the sort of typical twin stick shooters.
So talking more about like a twin stick shooter, what do you think makes a good one and what makes a bad one? Like, do you have any like views on that?
I guess I would say you sort of obviously ones where the shooting feels good and the movement feels good is probably what I'd define as something that would be favorable. Yeah, that's sort of all I sort of look towards is something that sort of feels good, when playing.
Yeah, because one of the ones I remember playing, at least I think I remember. I hope I'm not making this game up, and it actually exists. But I remember like Black Ops had like a twin stick like shooter like mini game.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if I'm like making it up, but I remember like playing that a lot, and there was like the different like power ups you can get and stuff.
Yeah.
So besides like twin stick like shooters, are there any other like video game genres or video game types you really like?
I do like sort of the adventure RPG games and platform games as well.
So when you say adventure RPGs, what types in particular are you talking about?
Like Skyrim is definitely a good one.
So more like open world Western RPGs?
Yeah.
Okay. So, did you play a lot of games growing up? Or like, how did you like get into gaming?
Yeah, I did play a lot of games from early on. Growing up, I did start on the Commodore 64, which is like very old. Remember playing this helicopter game on it as a kid. So it'd just be like pixels, and like you'd just be this helicopter, and you basically have to, it's side scrolling, so you have to like drop down to fuel up again and go back up and try to shoot the sort of water towers to get points and stuff. So that was very old. But yeah, I did play first generation consoles like PlayStation, Nintendo, Xbox.
Yeah,
earlier.
I've talked about my like gaming story here before, but I pretty much started with the N64, and then I went to the SNES for some reason. I don't know how you go backwards in gaming, but apparently you can.
Yeah, that's good.
So, if you don't mind me asking, where are you from?
Australia.
Australia.
Yeah.
There's quite a few like Australia devs out there.
Yeah, in Melbourne, there's a really strong sort of game development scene. So there's quite a few games coming out from Melbourne. Yeah.
So is the community pretty like strong there? Do you guys like have get together like meetups?
Yeah, there is a meetup group, and the community is pretty strong down in Melbourne. Yeah.
So did you know you always wanted to make a game, or did you discover that after maybe you got a degree in something else and you felt like, okay, I don't want to do this, I'd rather make games?
No, I've always wanted to make games. I started playing around on the Commodore 64 as a kid, so I had a pretty early start, and made games in Game Maker growing up. And then from there, I just studied it straight out of high school, and sort of been working in the game industry for the last 8 years. So it's been I've been pretty, committed to it, and, always wanted to do it. Yeah.
So did you, I don't know if I missed it, but did you go to any like formal education or?
Yeah, I went to a place called Interactive Academy of Interactive Entertainment. So I did study for 2 years, doing an advanced diploma.
Cool. So Num Num's your first game, right?
Yeah, first published. Yeah.
So what made you want to go like indie versus trying to get into the AAA game industry?
I've been working commercially for the last 8 years, and I thought it was just time to sort of go out and start sort of creating my own stuff. I wanted to sort of take sort of a new path.
So what kind of work did you do before?
I was basically an artist for different sort of companies and stuff. So working on different IP, just at companies, yeah.
Any companies you can say that you worked for, or no?
Yeah, I did work for 3 Sprockets, Taurus Games, Trickstar Games. Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, it's very interesting. Now we're seeing a lot of like AAA developers go like more indie.
Yeah, a lot of small scale. Yeah, they're making a lot of small scale games compared to, we used to seeing a lot of bigger sort of ones in the past. Yeah.
so what's the origin of like Nom Nom Apocalypse? Like, how did you come up with it? Like, did you like eat a bad Big Mac and have nightmares then that night, or?
Before I was in the game industry 10 years ago, I actually worked at McDonald's in the back. So I had a bit of
I'm not far off then.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I had a big experience dealing with a lot of greasy, sort of monstery looking, sort of type food. So definitely, yeah.
I feel bad for people who have to work in fast food.
I mean, like it's not all bad. Like it was an all right job. But yeah, it can get a bit dirty at times, like any job.
Well, it's mostly the like because I don't think a lot of people treat people, restaurant people, with like respect. You know, we take what they do for granted.
Yeah, hospitality is definitely like a very brutal sort of industry, and that's sort of like why I wanted to make them the heroes in like Nom Nom Apocalypse. They're sort of like an unlikely hero. They're the ones who like save the day with their sort of skills and the courage and stuff. Sort of just like a different take instead of having like policemen and army guys. You got like these industry workers and hospitality workers sort of saving the day.
Okay, so you had this idea for the Nom Nom Apocalypse. You're like, I'm gonna like make this game. How do you begin? Where do you start? Did you start drafting notes, or like where do you go from like an initial concept to let's make this game?
I do a lot of like grey boxing and like sort of like just the prototyping. So I just get like the basics in there. So just like blocks, getting the movement sort of set up, possible like testing how it might feel. And then on the side, writing notes, thinking about what the sort of creatures and characters would look like. And then slowly building up from that.
So you did a lot of like pre-planning before you actually began development, right?
Yeah, a reasonable amount. Yeah, it did go through a few iterations before finalizing sort of like how the game would work.
And why did you choose a twin stick shooter for your like first game? Did you just like really love twin stick shooters, or?
I just felt like it was sort of like fun to sort of like to play as like that. That I wanted to do a different take on it, something more lighthearted. But I felt like it'd be cool to do something sort of in that sort of nature, but with a different art style.
Yeah, speaking of like art style, your game has a really like stylized, cartoonish like style. How long did it take to come up with that style and finalize it, and how many like changes and iterations did it go through until you were happy with it?
It did. The art style come together pretty fast. I did want to make something that was easy to sort of read from afar. From a distance. With the style, I sort of wanted to make something that sort of felt like, sort of blobby and chunky, like sort of food. So everything had to be sort of like this sort of thick, sort of globby looking type sort of world.
I'm going to be so hungry after this interview, by the way.
That's good.
So you do the art yourself, right?
Yep.
So how long have you been doing the art?
Probably, I've been doing it since I've been a kid as well. So easily, 20 years.
What about 3D art?
3D art, maybe 10 years, over 10 years.
And because 3D has a particular like pipeline. So what's your like art pipeline like?
I usually like figure out what sort of enemy I'm going to have, whether and what their attack's going to be, and then I'll concept it, model it, and then sort of test it in game to see if it works at the camera angle it does, and then make any iterations from that. And then once I think it works at that angle, I'll go through, finalize it, then rig it up and start animating it before putting it in.
And how long does like one like finished like character like monster take roughly?
It can to model and animate and get it in. It could probably take 1 to 2 days. So it's pretty simple and fast. But
really?
like bosses, yeah. It just depends because it's like a simple enemy that's sort of small with like a few legs is pretty fast. But like something like a boss can take, almost a week to 2 weeks, or maybe a week to sort of make and then animate and get in. But then it takes like another week or 2 weeks to do the attacks and test.
Oh, you pretty much have a nice little system set up to make content then.
Yeah. I do have a lot of experience working at the companies that I did before doing this. So I got to sort of find out how people work and what's the fastest way to go through things.
Because I know that can be like a struggle for a lot of like indie like devs, particularly ones who are so young and inexperienced. They don't know where to start, and they just start creating and drawing stuff together without like having a system in place.
Yeah, I mean, like obviously, I've got it on this project. I had gaps in knowledge because this is my first time doing like from start to finish on a whole project by myself. So I learned a lot myself on this project, but it definitely helps having experience from, working at companies and prior experience growing up making games as well, so, and there's definitely a lot more resources out there today than there was, growing up. So.
Oh yeah, there's a lot of like resources to like make a game nowadays. I've said it before. I was saying it's never been this easy to make a game like it is today. But because of that, there's so many games, and the market can get saturated because of that.
Yeah, definitely. There's I guess there's good and bad sides to everything. It's definitely been so easy. I guess like I remember in Game Maker, growing up, it's like you'd have to sit there and sort of draw out every sort of sprite and stuff and put it in. But I think Game Maker now has come a long way, and it's really cool to use. But then even Unity, being able to make stuff, make games and stuff in Unity so fast is really cool.
Yeah. So I think Unreal's been really catching up the last couple of years.
Yeah, Blueprint has really made it accessible.
Oh yeah. And the fact that they've actually made like Unreal like free, because for the longest time it wasn't free.
Yeah, so I definitely think Unity changed the landscape of how people make games. Because it's really gated off to like companies who could afford the engines. About 10 years ago. Now it's like anyone can sort of make games. So all the companies are sort of competing, to get.
Yeah, and the engines I think have gotten better, stronger. Like I used to have a kind of meh opinion about Game Maker, but from like doing the streams and the show and stuff, I've been impressed by a lot of Game Maker games. Like people have made some really cool like games at Game Maker. I'm like, whoa, you made that on Game Maker?
Yeah, I definitely see a few. Like I said, growing up, seeing, what people are creating with it now, I'm just like amazed, that was made in Game Maker. It just shows you that it's like the imagination of someone and not so much, the tools, you can really like push, what you want to do. in these engines.
I always say like find the tool that like works best for you. You know.
Yeah.
And unless you're working for someone, then you use the tool they tell you to use. You know.
Yeah, I mean, you can ask for tools. That's always an option.
Yeah, but game engine is like a different story. You know.
Yeah.
Typically, you don't have that power to make that decision. You know.
Yeah.
So I kind of want to go back talking about the models and like the character designs. How did you like make like each of them unique? Because I played a bit video game. I didn't get that far. I couldn't get past the first level, man. Like we'll talk about that later. Your game's hard, man. Even though I'm like bad at games, but like I was like blown away. Just the different style, the different like designs, particularly those like boss designs. Like each design was pretty unique. It was pretty cool. How did you pull that off, man?
I guess like I've been pretty into like characters, cartoons, animation, all that stuff. But I guess I sit there sort of concepting different monster ideas, and I did look at the monster movies to see, you know, I did want like these hulking sort of monsters, but I also wanted them to feel different, look different in like different ways, and like pick out the really iconic things about the food. So like with the Noodlegora, you know, obviously like the chopsticks are something that really identify with like noodles. So I was like, okay, let's turn that into claws. And then like with Sweet Tooth, the candy sort of creature, I was like, you know, because like he's sort of like this creepy sort of like character with long sort of candy fingers. I was like, okay, that's sort of nightmarish, you know, that sort of belongs in the school, so let's make him like come out from the shadows. He's sort of like this sort of nightmare sort of creature, you know, that would haunt like kids' dreams and stuff. So you sort of just like iterate on an idea until you find one that sort of fits like a sort of cool sort of backstory without having to make a story. Sort of like the sort of design tells the story.
So that raises an interesting question, and I've had different responses and different conversations about this. So what do you think? Were you are you design or are you story? Or gameplay or story? I guess might be better, you know.
Whether I prefer gameplay or story.
Like, particularly when you're designing, should you have the story figured out first, or should the game design come first?
Yeah, I've seen this online. I think game design should come first because I think you need to have a base of the game worked out before you do the story. Unless it's like a narrative game, then I think it might differ from the scenario because you're making a game around, you know, a story experience, but you still want to have, they should still be worked on together, I think. But I think for games, because they're an interactive experience, I think working on the actual game design is probably a little bit more important, but they can be worked on together to make the best sort of result.
Yeah, you probably should be working at them at the same time and make sure your game design and your like narrative design person are, you know, talking to each other so that you can like make the best game like possible.
Yeah.
So to talk about the levels a bit, one, they're hard. Two, how did you go about like designing these levels and making sure the levels like actually flow well?
So I guess there's sort of like a sort of like ramping system I sort of used through each level. And what sort of starts off as is like it slowly starts to rise in difficulty, and then it'll drop to an easier sort of area before going up again and then versing the final boss. So you get that sort of moment where you sort of feel the ramp of difficulty, and then it'll sort of drop. So you get that sort of moments, easier moments, and then it all sort of builds up again. So that's the way I sort of approach the the overall design for a level. But it sort of like randomizes each area, but still works off that sort of system of making sure like it progressively sort of ramps up each area.
And how many levels are there?
So there's 5 different worlds. For now, and I guess each area sort of increases in levels. Each level you sort of pass.
Okay, so let's kind of talk about your game's hard, man. Like, am I bad at games? Well, okay, we know I'm bad at games, but like your game's hard. But at the same time, I really like it. But at the same time, it's like frustrating. I feel like I would have like a better. Be quiet, King. I know I'm okay. So I feel like I would have like a better time playing it on co-op. So, would there ever be online co-op?
You with the difficulty, I guess I should say I've had like different people say like some people have found it really easy, and then other people have found it a little bit more challenging. So it's really hard to gauge. I guess where it lies, in the middle for various people. But I guess there, in terms of co-op, there's currently Steam does support the remote play co-op.
Yeah, but the problem with that may not always work for people, remote play can be kind of like iffy,
So online's pretty hard to. I guess with online, you sort of need to decide from the start to get online up and running. Yeah, it's very hard to just insert it into the game. It's not as simple as
Yeah, I'm not making that too simple. It's just it's hard to get friends to come over.
Yeah.
We don't all have like friends. I'm not trying to give you a hard time. I was just like asking. Just
okay, no
curious.
worries. So the current sort of setup is you can do remote play, or have someone play with you, on the same screen.
So what would you need to be able to implement like online play?
A lot of time. Yeah.
Have you looked into it or no? You just focus on the current state of the game.
At the start I did think about it, but it just seemed like probably a little bit too ambitious for my first game and to do something by myself, because there's a lot of testing involved with that, and I just thought it's probably better that I don't do something that would take away from me actually being able to make the game. Online's a very, very sort of involved sort of process.
There's one of my friends for the longest time wanted like online like multiplayer for like open world game, and for the longest time he thought he'd never be able to like get to it, and he was able to make it happen by chance, and that's because like a friend like helped him. So that's cool. It's a very interesting story, but pretty much but yeah, what was did I want to ask you? So how has the reception of the game been?
Probably as you'd like expect. Like some people like it, some people don't. I guess the art style makes it sort of I would say like it. I did set out to make something that wasn't sort of your typical sort of shooting style game. It was more stylized. So some people do like it. Obviously, some people don't. But yeah, people do have praised, the sort of arcade element to it and the style and being able to just shoot cheeseburgers and stuff.
Yeah, I really do like the stylized. Like when I first like saw the screenshots and like every time I saw a trailer, I'm like, oh, I can't wait to play this. I can't wait to play this. When is this coming out? So it's cool to finally see it out and see people enjoying it, playing it.
Yeah, it's definitely rewarding. Seeing people have fun with it, definitely.
So has there been any like feedback that has like surprised you?
No, not really. It's been people have given feedback, and I've sort of listened to it and said, yeah, that's probably a good critique. So I have implemented some feedback that I thought that was good, and that improved the game, and that's sort of what I've gotten so far, which is good.
So to move on to another topic, how important is game marketing?
How important is game art?
Marketing.
Oh, marketing. Oh, yeah. Sorry. Yeah, marketing is very important. I think with social media at the moment, it's very hard to very clearly get sort of your game in front of a lot of eyes. So I definitely think marketing is more important today than ever. Considering the mass of games that are coming out.
So I've seen you use like a lot of different like social media platforms. So how do you personally best use the social media platforms to help promote your game? Like, what's your social media strategy?
I guess like you sort of like have to look at each sort of social media platform and see what content is going to work for each of them. So I feel like Facebook is sort of not like it used to be. So you sort of like, I don't feel like I need to post as much there as I would like on Instagram and Twitter.
Yeah, I'm terrible at Facebook. I hardly post, and a lot of my Facebook posts are just me copying and pasting my posts from other platforms. So
yeah, I definitely think like Facebook is definitely feels different to post than Instagram and Twitter these days. But I feel like Instagram is, you got to go for something that Instagram you can post a lot of just like development stuff, like and just sort of quick sort of pictures. But I feel like Twitter, you definitely go for more action, sort of like more stuff that you feel like that might go viral. So more things that are going to get clicks and stuff. So I feel like everyone sort of goes for things that are going to be a little bit more shiny on Twitter.
Yeah, I think like Instagram's pretty good if you have like more visual and like development screenshots and stuff. And like you said, Twitter, it's probably one of the platforms you want to try and get the most like engagement out of,
Yeah. I mean, that's just my opinion, but that's sort of like what I've sort of seen and learnt so far.
But when knows, I tend to get more engagement on like Instagram. I get a lot more like follows and likes when I post stuff on Instagram.
Yeah, I guess it's just.
But I don't know what the like to like click ratio is on Instagram, though.
Yeah.
So when you were, I guess maybe halfway through developing your game and stuff, did you ever like consider, or did you like ever like launch a Kickstarter? Because I don't think you did, unless I'm misremembering.
I mean, I think everyone sort of thinks about the possibility of how they go about funding, but for the first one, I just want to see, you know, what the development process could be like, you know, without, I guess, like trying to get too much funding. So I just want to see what the process was. I know that sounds a little bit weird, but I wasn't sure that Kickstarter was the right thing to do in terms of funding or the project.
So, looking back now, do you wish you would have launched a Kickstarter, or are you glad you didn't?
I feel like this was a small game, so I don't like a Kickstarter would have given me more time to add more content, I guess, but I don't think it would have changed the game too much. I mean, like from where, like I've got more content planned for the game, but I don't think that would have changed my approach to the game, or you know how much more time I needed. I probably would have just used more time. Do you know what I mean? Like I sort of got everything I needed to get out of the project done.
So I did you ever demo your game at like conventions and stuff?
Yeah, I should mention that I did get funding from my local arts government as well.
Oh, okay, yeah. There's a lot of like government like programs that can like help for your funding for a game.
Yeah, so they sort of helped with the game release. So I was able to hire like a marketing and a trailer person to help. And yeah.
Is it difficult to pitch to the government to give like funding to a project like an indie game?
So this is the first time going through the process, but so it was a little bit formal, but pretty relaxed. So you basically sort of show your game, sort of like write up a brief, and then sort of explain what you sort of your intent for it. Yeah, it was definitely a new experience. I wouldn't say it was hard, but it's just something you know you sort of have to do when you're pitching just products in general.
Okay. So one of the cool topics I wanted to ask. So, like, I think a couple of months ago, you had this like cool giveaway for this sick-looking like num like Xbox One controller skin or controller or like Xbox something like that.
Yeah.
So, what how did that like come about?
I thought it'd be cool to sort of do something that was sort of physical, because I guess it's fun sort of like just talking about it, but I thought it'd be sort of cool to give away something as well. You know, just experimenting with different things I could promote. But yeah, it's like interesting to get like, you know, boxes, like a box printed, and you're getting this like controller sort of together. It was fun. It was fun making it. Yeah.
Is it do you plan on like selling any more of those, or was that one time thing?
It's possible that in the future I might do some more giveaways. That's all I sort of have planned for now. But I'd probably do a few more giveaways.
Because it was pretty like sick looking, like
yeah.
Whoever like designed the like skin and stuff did a pretty good job with it. So.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah, that was me.
okay. I wasn't sure if you had like a manufacturer that did the designing or something like that.
No, I did it and got it printed. But yeah, no thanks.
Oh, you printed it yourself?
Yeah, so it's no, you get a company to go and print it.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, you're correct. Yeah.
Okay. Can you mention what company you went through or no?
I probably won't, but it's anyone can pretty much do it. It's sort of like a decal skin that you put on the controller. But
okay.
Very cool.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. So some of our last couple topics are focused on content creators. So what's your like relationship with content creators, and how important is that relationship?
I guess I don't have a personal relationship with them, but I do think in terms of like people discovering games, finding out about games, I do think they're really important now, probably more important than, reviewers, because you actually get to see people experience the game.
Yeah, but some content creators are reviewers, so
Yeah, but it's sort of different because I sort of feel like it's different because you actually get to sort of see someone sort of enjoy the game. Various people enjoy the game in different ways, even though they're still reviewing it. I feel like it's a really sort of nice sort of future. It's like YouTube has definitely opened up. Initially opened up like a different way that we all consume content.
So, are you familiar with the Angry Joe show?
Briefly, yeah.
You might not. You may or may not know this then, but so Over Joe and I think it was either Alex or Dale. They actually streamed your game.
Yeah, I did see that. I did see their names in the leaderboards. Yeah,
that was pretty cool. When I was like scrolling like Twitch, I'm like, oh, the Angry Joe show streamed on Apocalypse. That's pretty cool. So
awesome. Yeah, no, I definitely enjoyed seeing people play. It's very nice to see, rewarding.
So do you go out and contact content creators to cover your game, or no?
So for the project with the funding, I hired a marketing team to sort of help me with that because I was busy working on the game. I needed help. So they sort of handled that side of things.
Cool. So to kind of talk about social media and like email, would you prefer to use in which like situations? Because sometimes I feel like I'll get a response through social media, or sometimes I'll get a response for like emails. So I'm not quite sure what to contact a developer through email or like social media.
Yeah, I think social media sort of is easier, but it can be hard to sort of. I guess like for me, email people. Someone's taken the time to sort of try to contact you about something serious. So that's sort of how I would see it. Where I feel like social media is a little bit more casual, but sometimes it's just easier and quicker to contact someone via social media. So I don't really have a definitive sort of outlook.
Because sometimes I'll contact a person through both, and they won't like respond through email. They respond through the social media like interaction, or sometimes it's the other way around. So it's.
Yeah, I think it just depends on the person and I guess how they view or what their preferences are.
So how do you think a content creator should go about like approaching you then? Is there like an etiquette they should follow?
No, I don't think so. I think whatever suits them. I think that's fine.
Particularly if they're requesting for a review copy of a game.
I would probably say email because it's there. I can like probably look and go through and recall in that sort of scenario. But if someone just contacted me through to just say Twitter, I'd probably respond much quicker. But I'd probably deal with like that's sort of like a business sort of matter. So I would definitely say email.
Yeah.
Personally, yeah.
Yeah. But luckily nowadays we have like fancy like key websites like Keymailer and Indie Boost that makes things a lot more like easier in my opinion.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we have one final question, and then we're gonna open it to the chat. So chat, if you have any questions for our guests, get those questions raised. So, this last question is: what is something you wish you did differently?
I guess. I mean, if I guess spend a lot more time sort of prototyping, I would like to see how much more I could get out of the prototyping phase, I guess. But I was trying to stick to sort of like a timeline and sort of milestones. So I guess I guess now that I have more experience, I wish I'd sort of spent more time in the prototyping phase before moving out of it.
So King has a question. Who did your music? Did you do the music, or did you hire someone else to do the music?
So the music's probably the only thing that I haven't done. I did hire someone. His name is Jacob Bellini, and he's a sort of music/developer in Australia as well.
Cool. So did think it helped to hire a musician that was local to you, or was that just a funny coincidence?
I did meet him recently, and he did express eagerness to sort of work on something that I was creating at the time. So it just seemed like a really good sort of fit. It was just coincidence.
So, first of all, I want to thank you for joining me for this podcast.
No worries. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, and this has been Nanos Indie Cafe, where we discuss and promote various indie games and indie projects. If you have your own indie game or indie project, feel free to buy sometime. Talk about it, plug the link, and we do that at twitch.tv/nowhero, Wednesday through Friday at 2 p.m. Arizona time. And one final announcement before we completely close out. We now have a website which you can check out at nanosindycafe.com.